Hello everybody and welcome back to this next section where we are going to take a look at getting the current date and time in actual Python. Now basically there are multiple modules that you can actually import to perform these different tasks, such as the time module, the calendar, and so on and we're going to take a look at some of them and also some of the useful functions that you can use in order to get specific time or in order to calculate something, which can be basically useful to you in certain programs. So the example one that we're going to take a look at is how we can actually get the current dated time. So simple as that. If you open up your idle, so just go up here, type here idle, and simply just write import date time, you can see that it will import an actual library that will allow us to perform different tasks. In order to actually see what's inside the datetime library, we can use the dir function, which will allow us to see everything that is in this datetime library. So in order to do that, you can just simply print dir, and then you, in between the brackets, specify the name of the library itself. And then you can see right here what it has in it. So we can see time delta, time zone, time, sys, datetime. So you can see the time is actually a part of the datetime library. You have all of these actual doc, file name, package spec, date, date time itself, max year, min year, and so on and so on. So that is how you can actually check out what's inside a certain library. And right now, let us see what we can do with this library. So first of all, let us create a datetime object, which we can set to be equal to datetime, and then dot, and then we're going to call the datetime, which is simply calling this part right here, as you can see right here. It also has a datetime inside the datetime, therefore we are going to call it, and from there we're going to call the class, the method now. Now right here, what this method will do is it will simply print the current dated time. So first of all, we define it, and then we print the datetime underscore object, and it will say that today is the 27th of May 2019, 10:21, 16 seconds, and this is milliseconds, I believe. Okay, so that's how you can do that. Once you actually change it, so datetime underscore object 1 equals datetime time.datetime. So you basically perform it once again and you print it once again. You will see that the actual value will be different. As we can see right here, it is now 52 seconds, while as here it was 16 seconds. So you can use this statement right here or this line right here in order to get the current time of the execution of that specific statement right there. Okay, so basically what we did right here, if we imported the datetime module using import datetime statement, one of the classes defined in the datetime module is the datetime class, and then we use the method now to create a datetime object containing the current local date and time. Okay, as we can see right here. And right now, let us see how we can simply just get the current date. So also by using the actual datetime function right here. So we can do that by simply creating another data object. Just right now, we're going to call it date object and not datetime, because we only, for example, want to retrieve the date. We don't care about the current time, especially not in milliseconds. So right here, date object will be equal to simply just datetime library. And we're not going to use the datetime class from this library. We're going to use the date class right now. And then we're going to call it and simply just specify the method today. If we press enter right here, you can see everything went without any error. And now if we print the date object, you can see it will print the current date without its time. Okay, so basically we use the today method from the date class to get the date object containing the current local date. Okay, so simple as that. Now, as we can see right here, one of the commonly used classes in this datetime module are the date class which we use right here, the time class, which we're going to take a look at later on, the date time class, and the time delta class. So those are the most used actual classes in this actual module. So right now what we're going to take a look at is date object to represent a date. Now what I mean by that is we're simply going to specify 3 digits and then we will turn that object into a date. So right here, if you just specify, let me just close this and reopen it, import datetime once again. And right now, if we want to actually convert some 3 values to the actual date, you can simply just specify, for example, A equals, for example, 2019, B equals, let's see, which date is it today? It is 5th, C equals 27. So this is the 27th of May, 2019. But it really isn't right now, it is only 3 integers, and right now, let's say we want to actually convert it to a date, we can simply just do that by specifying a variable name, so we call it date right now, and we're going to convert it by using the date class from the datetime function, so we're going to just type here datetime dot date, and right here we specify 3 values, which are going to be A, B, C. Press here enter, and if you print date, you will see that it will actually print the date itself. So it will turn it basically into a date. In case you are wondering, the date in the above example is a constructor of the date class. The constructor takes 3 arguments, the year, the month, and day. Now we can only import the date class from the datetime module. Now we already saw some of the examples of how we can do that. You don't really need to import the entire datetime module. You can simply just import only date module by simply specifying from datetime import date. If you press here enter, it will only import the date class from the datetime module, and therefore you can simply just perform all of this stuff you need from the date class without actually importing everything else as well. So you can simply just go right here, today equals, and without specifying the prefix of datetime, you can simply just specify only date, because we only import the date, the datetime is not even imported, so date dot today. And what this will do is it will set the current date into the today variable, so we can just print right here, current date equals, and then we can comma today. And you can see right here, it will basically print current date equals and then the today's date. Okay, so simple as that. It is very important that you know that you can import it just like this, because let's say you want to use a lot of functions from the datetime library, and most of them are from the date actual class, and therefore you really don't want to bother by specifying datetime every time you use something from that class. You can simply only just write date and perform all these tasks as well by simply specifying this line at the beginning. So simple as that. Now, you can also get the date from a timestamp by using the date class from the datetime library. So, as I said, the actual timestamp basically means that it will count the seconds from the 1st January 1970, and then it will convert the date using from timestamp method. So you will see, just in case, let me just show you right here. If you just create timestamp to be equal to date dot from timestamp, and in between the brackets you specify this amount of seconds, so simply just specify something like this, and basically just press here enter. We just check out right here from timestamp. Yeah, we are missing an actual letter. We typed from timestamp, we need R somewhere there, so date dot from timestamp, and in between the brackets you specify the amount of seconds, and if you print the date, and then you add the actual timestamp, you will see that the actual date was 14th of April 1974. Now, if we take the same statement right here, and instead of actually specifying 1, you specify 3 right here, and you print timestamp, you can see it was the 14th of August 1980. So basically you can simply just specify the amount of seconds from timestamp, and it will count those seconds from the 1st January 1970, and it will print you which date was at that certain point. Okay, so basically that would be about it from the from timestamp method. Not really that useful, but something funny to do. Now the next example we have is we can print today's year, month and day one by one. So we saw the example of how we can actually print the date itself, but let's say we want to print everything one by one. So all we have to do is simply just select the today variable to be equal to date.today, which we already did right up here, but we're going to select it once again. So right now, if we just simply just print today, you can see it has the current date, which is correct. But in order to actually print, for example, only a year, only a month, only a day, you can simply just do something like this. So print, open single quotes, current year, and then you can simply just add today.year, simply just by specifying the today object, and then adding the .year, .month, and .day. So let us see how that will work. Then we can add the new line character, then plus current month. We simply add today.month. It is rather simple, so nothing really to explain right here. \n for the new line. And the last thing is the actual current day. So just go right here, type here current day, and then plus today.day. Press here enter. Let me just go right here. Can only concatenate string, not integer to string. What do you mean by that? Okay, so I think I know what they mean. Let me just copy all of this. You can't really add strings and integers, therefore we're going to perform the same print statement, just instead of actually adding this, we will add comma. Let me see if that will work. Comma. Comma. We can leave the pluses between the actual strings, but between the integers we need to type here comma and press here enter, and you will see right here it will print out current year 2019, current month is May, and the current day is 27th. So simple as that. Okay, so it is not really anything too advanced. Basically this is something that you will understand right away. And the next example that we're going to take a look at is the time object to represent time. Basically we took a look at importing datetime. We also took a look at importing from datetime only the date library, and right now what we're going to look at is importing time library, or pardon me, time class. So let me just restart the idle so we have everything prettier. Open it up right here, enlarge it, and simply type here the same statement as from datetime import date. Just right now we're going to import time. So from datetime import time. Press here enter, and it will only import the time class. Therefore you don't really need to use datetime prefix on everything you do. Okay. Now you can simply just type here something like a equals time. Now, even though you don't really know what you did right here, if you just type here a equals time, open and close brackets, and don't press enter, you will see what arguments does this time function take. And basically you can set the hours, the minutes, the seconds, the microseconds if you want to. But by default, if you just press here enter, it will all be equal to 0. So basically we set the amount of hours to be equal to 0, amount of minutes, amount of seconds to be equal to 0. And let me just show you right here. If you just print a equals and then comma a, you will see that we actually did set that. So all of the amounts of hours, seconds, seconds and minutes are all set to 0. And right now, if we simply just type here b equals, and we use the same function, but for now, right now we specify 11, 34, and 56, and we simply just print b, you can see that it will print a time. So it is 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 56 seconds. So simple as that. Now, if you want to, you can also add the microseconds. If, for example, if you just type here b equals time, and you specify the same time, so 34, 56, and right afterwards you add some microseconds, press here enter, and you print d, you will see that it will also add the dot 364554, which basically is the microseconds. And then once you print all of that, it will print different times. As we can see, this one hasn't set anything, so it is all set to 0. Once we actually specify the values in this function, we actually set the time. And right here, if we also specify the fourth value, we will also specify the microseconds as well. Okay? And as we saw in the previous actual example, you can select the date by year, month, and minute. And right here, you can also select the time by hour, minute, second, and microsecond. And in order to do that, you can simply just print d.hour, print d.minutes or minute, print d.second, and print d.microsecond. And you can select specific values of a certain time just by specifying it like this. Okay, so simple as that. Now, you can also use the datetime library to perform the same task. Let me just show you right here. If you just use the from datetime and you import the datetime class, which is a part of the datetime library, you import it just like this. You can simply set the year, month, and day just by specifying the datetime method from the datetime library. Now you can also specify everything in a single line, and by everything I mean the date, the time, the seconds, minutes, month, and so on and so on. Let me just show you how that works. We saw the example of something like this. So a equals date time. And then here we specify 2019, for example, 5th, and then 27. And you can see print A will print this current date, but it will also print next to it the amount of hours. So in order to actually select everything you can simply just type here A equals date time, and we go one by one. So first of all, it is year 2019. Then the next thing we need to specify is the actual month, which is May, labeled as 5. The day is 27. And then the hours can be, for example, 14. The minutes, 32. And the seconds, 55. You can also select the microseconds if you want to. And you will see right here, if you just print A, it will give you the full amount of time. So you have the date and you also have the time. So this is also something useful you can do. Of course, if you want to, once again, you can select each one of them one by one. So print A dot year, print A dot month, print A dot second, print, how did I go from month to second? Doesn't even matter. You can simply just go print A dot day. You can simply just do anything you want. You can also print A dot timestamp if you want to. So let me just show you right here. And it will print the timestamp from this current actual date from the 1970 or the 1st January of 1970. Okay. So basically that is also something you can take a look at. Now another thing, and basically the next example that we're going to take a look at is the time data from the datetime library. Basically, a time data object represents the differences or the difference between two dates or times. Basically, that is something probably the most useful you can have right here. It will basically subtract two different dates and it will give you the amount of days in between those two dates. So let me just restart this. Go right here, open up my idle. and import from datetime. We're going to import datetime class and also the date class. So basically we're going to import two different classes, which we can do by specifying comma between them. So we specify it just like this. And right now let us select the time one, which we are going to label as T1, to be equal to, and use the date function, and we're going to set the year to be equal to 2019, the month to be equal to 5th, and the day to be equal to 27, which is the current date. Just by pressing enter and printing T1, you can see that the current date is correct. So, okay. Now, let's set the actual T2 to be equal to date function. And let's say we have a plan for something in the future and we want to calculate the amount of days it takes for that to actually come. So we can set the year to be equal to 2022, the month to be equal to 11th, and the day to be equal to 7 or 16, for example. Doesn't even matter. Okay, so we have something planned out on this date right here, and we're wondering, for example, how many days does it take for this date to come. You can simply just specify it right like this. So T3 equals T2 minus T1, and then if you just print T3, you can see it will take exactly 1,269 days until this date is reached. So something around 3.5 years. Okay. Now, you can also do it for a date back. So if you have a current date, which is this date right here, and you have a T4 to be equal to date, and then, for example, 1880, or pardon me, year equals 1818, month equals 7th, and the day equals 2nd, okay? And then you want to print T1, which is the current date, minus that specific date in the past. You can see it passed exactly 73,378 days. Now, of course, if you actually wanted to, you can also add the microseconds, the seconds, minutes, and hours the same way we added it previously. So just by simply specifying a time like this. So T5 equals, let's set the current year to be equal to 2019. Month is once again 5th, and the day is 27th. The hours equal to, let's see, what time is it right now? 10 and 42. So hour, or pardon me, hour, not hours. Hour equal 10. The minutes or minute equals 43. And the seconds or second equal 11. Okay, you just close this, press here enter. Function takes the most. Oh, okay, yeah, I see the mistake. It is because we actually use the date function and not the date time. So let us make sure to use the date time. The date function can only take the actual year, month, and day as an input, while as the date time can actually take all 6, including the hour, minute, and second. Okay, so right now, once we specify the date time and press here enter, you can see it will execute without any error. And if you want to, you can simply just print T5 minus T1, and then you can see, let me just check it. Yeah, you can't really print that because this one is a part of the date library or date class, which doesn't really have seconds, microseconds, and so on. But you can simply just add the T6 to be equal to date time. And we simply add an actual time in the future, 2025, which is the year. Month will be equal to 11th. Day will be equal to 1st. Hour will be equal to 3 hours in the morning. Minute will be equal to 44. And second will be equal to 0 or 9. Doesn't even matter. And you simply just want to print the differences between these two times. You can simply just type here T6 minus T5, and you can see it will be around 2,349 days and 17 hours and 58 seconds. So simple as that. Okay. So that is also something to take a look at. Now, there is also another way you can do that, or basically another way you can print the differences between two objects by using the time delta. So just like this, let me just show you. If I just restart this, open up my idle, we import the actual time delta right now. So from date time, import time delta, okay? And then you want to set the time delta to also have weeks and not only month, days, and years. So basically you can do that just by simply specifying T1 to be equal to time delta. And you can set the weeks to be equal to 3, days to be equal to 5, hours to be equal to 3, seconds to be equal to 33. If you just print T1, you can see right here we have 26 days, 3 hours and 33 seconds. Now, if you want to actually, for example, also calculate some time or differences between some times, you can simply just add T2 to be equal to time delta. And right here, let's have only days. So for example, days equal 4, hours equal 11. So you will notice right here that we don't have weeks in both of them. So this one doesn't have weeks and this one does have weeks. And also this one, we will add minutes to it, while as this one only has seconds and hours and we didn't add any minutes. So days equal 4, hours equal 11, minutes equal 5, for example, and seconds equal 60. Or, pardon me, we can do 60, we can do 58. Press here enter. If you just print T2, you can see it is 4 days, 11 hours, 5 minutes and 58 seconds. And you can simply just print T2 minus T1, or pardon me, T1 minus T2. And the difference is 21 days, 15 hours, 54 minutes and 35 seconds. So this is also a useful function from the datetime library. But you can also, if you want to, print the negative time delta objects by simply specifying something in reverse. So for example, T2 minus T1 will give you the amount of minus 22 days, because actually it is the T1 is bigger amount of time. Therefore, once you subtract these two, you actually get minus 22 days, 8 hours, 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Okay? Now, the last thing that we're going to take a look at is example of turning the time duration in seconds. So we're also going to use the time delta from the datetime library in order to perform that. So you can simply do it just by specifying something like this. So T equals, this is going to be our universal time, so time delta, and let's set, for example, the duration of days equal 5, hours equal 1, seconds equal 33, microseconds equal 233,423. For example, doesn't even matter. And let's say you want to turn all of this time into seconds. So you don't want to print simply, if you just print T right here, you don't want to have 5 days, 1 hour, 0 minutes, 33 seconds, and this much microseconds. You want to turn all of this into seconds, and you want to see how much seconds does this last. You can simply do that just by specifying print T plus, or we can do plus, so T dot, comma, and then open single quotes, is equal to, and then we are going to comma, T dot total underscore seconds, which is a function from the datetime library, which we can use in order to transform everything into seconds. And then we're going to simply just add seconds. Okay. And if you print this, you can see 5 days, 1 hour, 33 seconds, and this much microseconds is equal to this much seconds. So that is also something useful you can do, basically in your calculations or wherever you want to use it, doesn't even matter. It is something that you can do. Okay. So basically that would be about it for this tutorial, and we're going to continue in the next lecture. and basically finish with this format, with this date and time libraries. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I will see you in the next lecture. Bye!